family scapegoat, that one person your family would blame, shame, manipulate or gaslight. In addition to being deprived of a loving family, it's likely you were singled out as the bad one or the problem child. That level of abuse when you were a child can lead to mental health issues as an adult. Sadly, this can reinforce the family narrative that there's something wrong with you. You may fantasise that one day you win your parents' love, acceptance and approval, but fantasies like this can keep you stuck as you wait for your parents to change, which may never happen. The true path to freedom comes from learning to reparent yourself, and I'll share how to reparent in this video. Now, I always think it's helpful to work with an example, so let's look at John. His parents were both university professors, but John was very much an average student. He never got the top grades, but he was never bottom of the class. He grew up with the knowledge that his parents had been very disappointed with him. They verbally attacked him and called him stupid and lazy. John often witnessed his parents arguing, but one thing they did agree on is that John was a problem child. His parents would often scream at him for various imagined offences. In reality, he became an emotional punchbag for all that was wrong within his parents' marriage. Because he was an only child, he felt the burden of his parents' disappointment, rage and blame. Over time, he started to believe the cruel and distorted family narrative that described him as lazy, stupid and a waste of space. His entire sense of self became imprisoned within this false family narrative. At times, John would protest against being seen this way, but his parents would dismiss him and tell him to stop making things up. John had no power within the family system, he was not believed, and whenever he spoke out, he was discredited. Let's take a look at the theory of self-reparenting, which I'll apply to John. Self-reparenting is a procedure from the school of psychotherapy called transactional analysis, or TA. In a self-reparenting process, you are restructuring your parent ego state. This is the part of your personality that thinks, feels and behaves in ways copied from your parents or parent figures. So when you're in your parent ego state, you can be nurturing, supportive, critical or controlling. When John is in his parent ego state, his inner voice tells him, I'm stupid, I'm not good enough, and I'm a failure. That's because John internalised the negative messages from his parents and they became part of his parent ego state. In fact, your parent ego state will also be full of parental messages that you internalised, both good and bad. The process of self-reparenting also involves becoming aware of the needs and wants of your child ego state. This is your inner child. So this is the part of the self that thinks, feels and behaves as you did when you were a child. When you're in your child ego state, you can be creative, playful, compliant or rebellious. When John is in his child ego state, he reacts emotionally, he feels anxious, hopeless and angry. He also finds himself being overly compliant in an effort to keep the peace. Now, during the self-reparenting journey, you will also need to tune into your adult ego state. When you're in your adult, you observe, analyse and make decisions based on the facts. The adult is also logical, rational and assertive. Now, there is no good or bad ego states. The idea is that they are in balance. The 3 steps to self-reparenting. So the first step is to get a piece of paper and draw a circle to represent your parent ego state. Subdivide the circle with a vertical line and jot down the messages you received from each parent or parent figure. So from his mother, John internalised the messages I'm not good enough and I'm a failure. From his father, he internalised the messages I'm defective and I'm stupid. So you can see that John absorbed these negative messages from his mother and father and is replaying them in his own parent ego state. Now, there were some positive parental messages he internalised. His mother always cooked nutritious meals and his father always took him out for bike rides. So John developed the ability to self-nurture via good food and exercise. So from the diagram, you can see how the messages he internalised from his parents formed John's parent ego state. Now, you can't erase the negative parental messages in your parent ego state, but through the self-reparenting process, the parent ego state can be restructured. So the self-reparenting process involves adding a new positive parent, so the old parental messages can be balanced by the new positive ones of the more appropriate parent. Step 2. It's impossible to reparent yourself if you don't know what your child ego state needs, and it's impossible to identify what type of parenting your child needs if you don't know what good parenting looks like. So this stage of the self-reparenting process involves observing how real parents parent their children. So you might identify a good parent in a book, TV series or a film, or perhaps you have a friend who you believe is a good parent. Once you've identified a good parent, notice exactly what they do. How do they speak to their child? And how do they behave? On a piece of paper, write down your observations of what makes a good parent. And remember, this is going to be different for everyone. John wrote, "The use of gentle and soothing language, emotionally supportive and encouraging, acting on my best interests, having a structure and routine that provides stability, setting firm boundaries with others, which means saying no if necessary." Remember, you are reparenting your inner child, so you want your child ego state to be happy with what is on the list. So if your child ego state wants to add to the list, that's fine. Step 3, practice the qualities on your good parent list. Now, this is actually the hardest part of self-reparenting because you were never taught these skills. So look at your list and decide which ones you want to work on first. John decided to work on setting firm boundaries with his family and saying no to their weekend visits. He practiced this for a couple of months before he started to feel comfortable with it. He then decided to work on the next thing on his list. So he didn't overwhelm himself by trying to make lots of changes at once. He worked slowly and cautiously, working on one thing and then working on the next. Over time, this new parenting behaviour became normal and eventually integrated into his new parent ego state. Like I've already said, it's not easy as you've never learned these skills, so you might want to enlist the help of your adult ego state. Remember, the adult is a part of you, it's logical, rational, assertive and concerned with the present reality. So if your parent ego state is struggling to maintain firm boundaries, you might ask your adult ego state, what do you think? Remember, this is an internal conversation with yourself. And the adult might say, well, they hurt you, so it's only logical to maintain firm boundaries. So this is the adult ego state acting as a substitute parent. So remember, you may need the supervision of your adult ego state to stay on track. Let me know how you get on in the comment section below. And if you'd like to take what you have learned and make it much more powerful, watch the video on the screen now. Just click the screen to view the video, and I look forward to seeing you soon.